Bakar, the people want to know what your team is going to be for Game Week 29. The free hit chip is active for you. So what we're going to do in this episode is we're going to build your team player by player on Fantasy Football Hub's My Team tool and see what rating you get at the end of it. Trying to get as close to 100% as possible. How you doing, mate? Are you excited for the free hit?
Hello, Jack. Hello, and welcome to all the listeners and viewers. Yeah, I mean, it's a relatively straightforward free hit to pick, to be very honest. It's a limited pool of players to pick from, so there are not too many deviations you can make from the template. But at the same time, I think there's scope for 2 or 3 differentials, and yeah, let's get cracking.
You know, let's go through it. We'll go through it position by position, but we won't spend too long on the players that are nailed on. For obvious reasons. Obviously, as you said, not a huge pool of players, so some of the players do pick themselves. Let's start in goal, though, where I don't think there is a nailed-on player. A lot of people are looking at Flecken, and I understand that, but I think there are other options there. Who have you gone for?
Yeah, I think this slot is open for debate. I've gone with Flecken as well, simply because Brentford are the most likely team to keep a clean sheet according to the bookmakers this week. Burnley are 19th for XG this season, and they have had a bit of a habit of underperforming in front of goal, wasting their chances. So this sort of seems like the kind of fixture where Flecken can jam a 8 or 9 pointer if Brentford keep a clean sheet. But that's the thing with keepers, you have to get lucky this week. There is no right obvious pick to get. Even with Flecken, I don't really have any degree of confidence to suggest that he's going to do well. But simply because he's just the best out of a bad bunch, I think I'm very likely to go there. I don't think there's a Brentford midfielder or attacker barring Tony to get. So doubling up on the defense sounds reasonable, and Flecken makes a few saves here and there. So he's a good pick. I mean, alternatives include Martinez. You can always get lucky with a penalty save out of him, or someone like, let's say, Sells from Forest. But I think I'll likely roll with Flecken.
So if I had to ask you, second alternative, just if someone wants to be different, because a lot of people are looking at Flecken.
Yeah, Sells or Martinez. I think Sells would be my second choice.
Sells,
yeah.
Okay. All right, let's chuck him on the bench then anyway. Okay, goalkeepers. Let's move on to defenders. I do think these are relatively straightforward.
So I was having a look at the bookmaker odds this week, and again, none of the teams playing in Game Week 29 have been projected to keep a clean sheet this week. I mean, basically, it's very, very difficult to predict a clean sheet. The highest probability of a clean sheet this week is 27%, which is for Brentford, and 27% generally is very, very low. Right? Yeah. So you're basically playing a lottery, hoping that you get lucky with the defenders or the goalkeepers that you're picking. So what is imperative here is to just select the defenders which have the highest attacking goal threat and assist potential. And I think the 3 that I've selected, Doughty, Porro, and Reguilón, kind of sort of pick themselves simply because of the attacking potential that they have to offer. Porro, I don't exactly want to pick a Spurs defender because I sort of think that Fulham will score.
Yeah.
And I sort of want to go with triple Spurs attack. But the problem is that I think the drop-off from, let's say, a Spurs mid to the alternative mid isn't as big as a drop-off between Porro and the second best alternative. So I definitely think that getting a Spurs defender makes sense, and Porro would be the likely defender to go for because of his attacking potential. I prefer him to Doggy because the chances of set pieces and his chance creation is generally better. So I think I'd go with Porro because of that reason. Doughty simply because he's really good attacking wise. He's on set pieces, and no team have conceded more goals from set pieces than Forest this season. So I really like that matchup. And he's also 4th for expected assists among defenders. He's only behind Porro, Trent, and Trippier.
Wow.
And the final one is Reguilón. Now, I'm not entirely sure whether Brentford play with a wing-back system because generally we've seen time and again that Reguilón, since he's signed, is more attacking when Brentford play a wing-back system. But that happens against the more difficult teams.
Yeah.
With the greatest respect to Burnley, I don't think that Thomas Frank will look at playing a wing-back system against them. I think he'll resort to 4 at the back. And in that case, I don't expect Reguilón to be that attacking. But given the defensive returns on offer and the likelihood of set pieces in his locker, I still think that he's the best option that you can go with, assuming that he's fit. Now, if he isn't fit, then Roslev is decent as the right back. But I think in that case, I would probably go with Collins simply because of his goal threat. With Pinnock not being there, I've sort of noticed that Brentford are targeting balls into him from set pieces. So you might get lucky with the attacking return with Collins.
Yeah. Collins has the highest predicted points, I guess, because because he is nailed to start. I guess there's no injury concerns there. And it's a good point what you make about Reguilon might just play as a usual sort of left back. They do go to that back five against good teams who they would struggle against. And in that sort of shape, their wing backs are, or their full backs are much less attacking. So who knows? Maybe not the best pick if you're not sure about a clean sheet to double up on Brentford. But then, as you say, what other options really are there? It is tough. Let's finish off the defense quickly then with the subs.
Subs could be anyone. I mean, I think maybe a Forest defender, Murillo, sort of comes to mind, or someone like a Konsa, or let's say, I mean, Luton have so many injuries, so maybe Burke. They're slim pickings, really.
Yeah.
But
Okay,
I mean,
let's carry on. Let's carry on.
Step in.
It doesn't matter.
Exactly. It doesn't really matter. So, okay, coming to some of the more obvious selections in attack, I think Son, Maddison, Bowen, Watkins, Tony. I don't think these picks need further explaining. I think all of these selections, they pick themselves for being, the talisman of their team and having the standout fixtures. The other two slots are actually more exciting and are up for debate. And I think this is where a lot of free hitters will go different with. I mean, this is one of those situations where no one really is optimal as such, and you can just go with your gut. I've gone with Gibbs White as one of my midfielders, and I've gone with Morris as one of my attackers. Again, both of these options don't inspire me with a lot of confidence. But again, they're on penalties, and I expect that Luton Forest game to be high scoring. Luton at home generally do score mostly, and Forest, I'd expect to score as well, simply because Luton's defense isn't great and they have so many injuries. They're actually bottom for XG conceded per 90 this season. So that's why ideally I want to have a Forest attacker. Now, I'm not entirely sure which one of the attackers is best to own, but I've gone with Gibbs White because he's the likely penalty taker and he's the safest for expected minutes. Now, we saw in midweek that in the previous week that Elanga was benched, Hudson-Odoi was benched. Avoni is returning, so I'm not entirely sure about Wood's minutes either. So I might as well go with the guy who I expect to be on penalties and who will play 90 minutes. That's simply the logic there. But if someone sort of wants to go different, I sort of think Elanga will play because he impressed in his cameo of the bench. And in his previous 6 starts, he's had 7 big chances. So the numbers are clearly there. He's actually the best Forest attacker to earn in terms of underlying data. So if you're absolutely sure of a start and if you want to trust his minutes, then I like Elanga as well. And yeah, Morris in attack simply because even though he's boring, he just sort of ticks a lot of boxes. 90-minute man, penalty taker, playing at home, in form. Yeah, probably would be my final attacker.
Yeah, Elanga actually interestingly is predicted to score the most points out of all Nottingham Forest players this week. I guess that is because of his really strong performances in terms of a data sense over the past few game weeks. Yeah, if we get word that, or we have an intuition that he's going to start, is he not a more exciting pick than someone like a Gibbs White who is relying a little bit more on sort of set pieces and maybe penalties?
Perhaps, but again, there is a chance of team leaks because that game is on Saturday.
Yeah.
Which sort of gives me more confidence. I also like to throw another name, Leon Bailey. He's another one who's sort of close to my free hit selection. The only issue there is that game is on Sunday and we are unlikely to hear whether he's starting, especially if he plays and starts on Thursday in Europe.
Night, yeah.
That would make it very tricky to predict. But he's sort of close to my free hit draft as well. And he's sort of there and thereabouts with the Morris and the Gibbs White selection. Because again, that's a fixture where I'd expect Villa to score 1 or 2 goals. And Bailey has been, he's averaged 0.6 XGI per 90 in the last 6, and he's gotten 5 attacking returns. Now, I sort of realize that most of it is coming from chance creation. He does not really have that high degree of goal threat that some of the others have. But again, this is one of those picks where, you just have to roll the dice and hope to get lucky.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's round off the midfield with. We won't do a standard bench option. Just who do you think the best next option is? The best 8th attacker?
The moment I have Bailey in my selection.
Bailey, interestingly, predicted to score more points than Gibbs White, but you've given your reasoning there, so it's fair enough. Right?
It could change. I mean, I've sort of mentioned in this draft. I think what can change? I think the defense is pretty settled. The goalkeeper might change, but I doubt I will change Flecken, if I'm being honest. I think the Gibbs White and the Morris slot are the ones where I might sort of go different. I don't think anything else will change, if I'm being honest.
Let's talk about the Morris slot.
Even there, I think it's sort of unlikely, and I think I'll
really
sort of pick this 11. Yeah,
okay,
I think
okay. Why are there no other forward options? You mentioned earlier that you wouldn't want to double up on kind of the Brentford attack. Wissa's been in good form recently since coming back into the side. 3 goals in 3.
Yeah, Wissa's nice, but Wissa's minutes are a problem, right? He barely ever plays over 65, 70. Now, you can argue that, it's Burnley and he can do well, but it sort of limits his ceiling to a certain extent.
Yeah, sure.
Slim pickings in defense. The Brentford defense is the one which kind of stands out.
That's fair. Any other forwards that are potentially...
Muniz is one. Yeah, okay. Muniz is one. I like Muniz. I expect for him to score, as I've said. And he's had, I think he's fourth for goal involvement since he started playing in Gameweek 23. So his underlying data is strong as well. He's only behind Haaland and Watkins for XG among forwards since he's starting. So he's clearly been impressive and he's doing well. But again, I don't really want to back against Spurs as such. And I think Spurs have the highest upside this week, which again sort of makes me lean towards Son as the captaincy choice this week.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know. I think that's a tough fixture, Yeah, Tony's second. I think that is a much tougher fixture than a lot of people are kind of giving it credit for. I mean, Fulham are doing pretty well right now. Palhinha will probably come back into the side too, which is going to make them more solid defensively, I'd imagine. I don't know. I think people are expecting to blow them away, and realistically, it's going to be a close game, I think.
I'm not exactly expecting Spurs to blow them away, but they're not exactly a defense I would feel scared of. They're not a defense which would put me off captaining someone against. I mean, they always tend to concede, so I'm happy going against them, really, if I'm being honest. And Son just does seem very appealing. He is the most likely player to return anytime, according to the bookmakers this week. Spurs are projected to score the highest number of goals. He gets an extra point for a clean sheet, for a goal. He's on some set pieces, likely to be the penalty taker. I just don't know. I think with the premiums not in conversation this week, I do trust Son more than any other option, if I'm being totally honest.
Fair enough. Okay, so that is the team. And it's given you a game week rating of 95%, which is okay. But it's not what you'd probably maybe hope for on a free hit, where you obviously have as much choice as you want. Budget not an option either. Predicted points 57.3. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm not too perturbed by the predicted points, if I'm being totally honest, because any half decent free hit team this week will get a green arrow for sure. Yeah. Because the number of hits will be high. A lot of people won't be fielding 11 this week. So I'm happy just being on a free hit, which is why I think this is a bit of a chill kind of week for me, because I don't really have to overthink about my decisions that much. Even if I sort of end up getting the 250-50 decisions that I have in my team wrong, it won't really matter as much, because I know at the end of the day, it will come down to luck. And over the course of the season, hopefully, my chip strategy will lead to bigger gains in the future.
That's fair. I mean, we have even see it. We've seen it pay dividends really already in the fact that you were able to keep Palmer. Whereas for a lot of people that were playing through or have been playing through 29, Palmer was one they had to lose in order to get someone like a Douglas Luiz, a Bailey, or someone like that. So for him to come back into the team, having already got how many points was it? 13 against Newcastle, it's kind of already slightly paying dividends. Obviously, we're not going to know fully until we get to 34 how it's all worked out, and which wild card is latest or best, playing earlier or later, but. Yeah, overall, looks pretty good. I do, though, just want to show you the Fantasy Football Hub AI best team for this week and see how that's different to what you've selected.
Exactly, because that would have a team rating of 100%, right?
Oh, so
I'd sort of like to know my differences.
All right, let's have a look. Okay, my friend, here it is. Now, this is really, really interesting. Guys, remember as well, if you want to try and beat Bakar's team rating, you can do so for free, as it says, top of the screen, link down below. Put your own players in, see how you get on. 95% to beat. It's tough, but it is doable. This team is, according to the Hub's data, the best Game Week 29 free hit team. And I think a few of the players in here may shock you. They really might.
You mind reading it out?
Absolutely, I'm going to read it out. Now, what I will say first is that a lot of the players that you said are still, the nailed-on players. Watkins, Tony, Son, Bowen, Maddison, all, of course, in the team. After that, it gets a little bit different. Doughty as well is in there. But the goalkeeper is Kaminsky. Now, he's very close to Flecken in terms of potential.
Which is fair. I mean, there's
points,
not much of a difference.
Yeah.
He's probably better for saves, I guess. That's fine.
And that is very, very close. The crazy one is the fact that Charlie Taylor has made his way into the team. And so has Assignon. So we're doubling up on the Burnley defence at home to Brentford. What do you think about that?
Oh, I think
crazy.
The algorithm feels a tad more optimistic about the Burnley defense than I do. I think it's quite a stretch, if I'm being totally honest. I would expect Brentford to score for sure. I mean, how long has it been since Burnley have kept a clean sheet?
I don't know. Years perhaps. They kept one this season. I'm not even sure.
They kept one. I remember I had Charlie Taylor when they beat
of course.
Sheffield United 5-0.
Yes.
But I think that's probably the last that we've seen them keep a side out. So it's been a while since that has happened.
Time for another one. That's what I say.
Exactly. I just don't think it's going to happen again. But who knows? The algorithm might know better. What about the midfielders? Any differences in attack?
Yeah, there are differences. I mean, the thing is, I think because, as you said, the highest percentage chance of a clean sheet is 27. That's why these guys have made their way into the team. They're not expected to do really well. It's only 3.7 predicted points for both of them. But you're comparing it to the likes of Collins at 3.6. Porro was even lower. Maybe that is just reason enough to chase upside. This is a statistical sort of averaging of what a player might expect to get in a certain game week. Probably not taking as much, just one-off random upsides into account. So that is kind of supports what you were saying earlier. You got to go with the upside. Midfield, Bailey is in, a player you mentioned, but not Gibbs White. Bailey's actually predicted to do quite considerably better than Gibbs White, about a point, 0.9 points more, which is quite a lot.
Yeah, that could happen. I mean, this is one where I could even flip. So yeah, I'm not going to argue against the algorithm here. It could happen, especially if my presumption that Gibbs White is on penalties is wrong, because it is a presumption. We haven't really seen a Forest penalty this season when both Wood and Gibbs White have been on the field. So while the presumption from the Forest fans is that Gibbs White is likely to take them, there is no guarantee.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And the last pick is a really fun one. No Morris. Morris is gone. Fofana is in. Very close with the predicted points, but he is predicted to score slightly more.
Triple Burnley.
Triple Burnley.
The algorithm fancies.
They're at home to a weaker team, you could say. I mean, we know Brentford historically are good, but this season not been as good. Numbers aren't as good. They're away.
Interesting. Jack, before we go, how different is your team likely to be to my team? That's the main question.
That's what the people want to know.
Exactly. So do I.
I would love to go a little bit different and go with triple Spurs midfield, getting someone like Johnson in there.
You're not going to do that.
And go for someone like Whistler up top. That's what I'd love to do. That is honestly what I'd love to do, but I'm not entirely sure if that is that logical, given that we just do not know who that third Spurs attacker
honestly,
is.
Knowing you, I think knowing you would probably go with Bailey over Gibbs White, and that's likely going to be your team.
I'm not sure about Morris. I will say that the players that pick themselves do pick themselves for me. I think the defense is pretty obvious. Keeper could change. I don't like Flecken really as a player. I don't think that he's that good. I'd happily go with someone else. I'd happily go with Kaminsky, to be honest. Don't really fancy a clean sheet there. I think Burnley will score for sure. And then that third striker slot. I'm tempted to go for Fofana. Chelsea boy, get him in. It's a free hit. Have some fun with it. We'll see how Morris does, by the way. We'll see how Morris does, because another blank and people are going to be put off.
I don't think that's going to affect my judgment. I would actually be happy if he blanked. I don't have any Luton players tonight.
No, don't say that.
Really? Of course, that would be amazing. Of course.
Okay, fair enough. Well, anyway, that is the difference between your team and the best AI team. Has this made you think that you might want to change something or not really?
I don't really share the same optimism on Burnley, so I don't think I'll change.
It's one of those where you look at it in isolation and you think, what is it talking about? And then you'll come back to it next week and you'll be like, oh, actually, yeah, it made sense and it did well. I would never have done it, but it did well. So it's something to think about. Right then, my friend, that is going to do it. Good luck next game week. As I said, guys, if you want to try and beat Bakar's score of 95%, get in the description. The link is there, also in the pinned comment. Good luck to everyone as well. Bakar, Green Arrow again. You're flying at the moment. Another one incoming?
I hope so.
Surely. You're a free hit. You got to have one.
Yeah, I mean, it's more or less guaranteed, but let's hope the gains are big.
Let's hope. All right. See you in the next one, guys.